The air was cool and golden, the kind of morning that feels like the world has paused just to listen. Mist hung over the savannah like a soft blanket, curling around the acacia trees and drifting low across the watering hole. Sunlight spilled gently over the still water, catching tiny ripples and making them shimmer like liquid gold. For a moment, nothing moved except the slow rising breath of the land itself. That a baby rhino stood near the edge of the pool, his small, round ears twitching at every sound. He was only a few months old, still unsure of where his body ended and the world began. His stubby horn, barely a bump, glistened with dew as he snorted at a dragonfly hovering just above the water. He stomped at it playfully, missing again and again, sending little splashes that caught the morning light. Nearby, his mother, massive, calm, and scarred from years of surviving, lowered her head to drink. Her ears flicked back toward him with every splash, every huff of excitement. She didn't need to look to know he was safe. Not yet. From behind a line of reeds, a woman watched quietly. Mara's khaki shirt was damp with sweat, her notebook balanced on her knee. She spoke softly into a recorder, her voice almost part of the wind. Female, estimated age 12. Calf, male, healthy. Playful behavior observed. Her words were gentle, steady, full of care. Around her, the jungle seemed to listen too. Birds called from high branches, their songs echoing through the stillness. A family of baboons crossed the clearing in the distance, chattering softly. The air was thick with the smell of wet earth and crushed grass. Every sound, the buzz of insects, the rustle of leaves, the soft splash of the rhinos, blended into a single rhythm. It was the pulse of a morning untouched by fear. But the water, so calm on the surface, held a secret. First, it was nothing, just a shadow, long and slender, gliding beneath the lily pads. The baby rhino didn't see it. His mother didn't sense it. Even Mara, her eyes trained to notice the smallest movement, missed it. The shadow slid closer, silent and patient, moving with the slow, perfect grace of something that had hunted for centuries. The baby rhino took another step toward the water, his reflection bending in the ripples. He lowered his nose, sniffed the cool air, then looked up as if feeling something he couldn't name. A flock of white ibis lifted suddenly from the far bank, wings flashing against the sky. The sound startled him. He gave a small squeal and backed away, bumping into his mother's leg. She gave a low grunt, deep and protective, the kind that made even the birds fall silent again. Mara smiled softly, writing a note. Calf, startled by movement, returns to mother's side. Typical. She leaned forward, elbows resting on her knees, unaware that her reflection also trembled across the same surface where the shadow moved below. The sun climbed higher, burning through the mist. Warm light poured over everything. The water, the rhinos, the long vines curling around trees like green serpents. Life went on in the rhythm it always had, quiet, watchful, unaware of the edge it walked upon. The baby rhino's curiosity, though, was endless. When his mother turned to graze, he wandered again, just a few feet this time, sniffing at reeds, nudging a floating branch. He loved the smell of the mud, the way it squished beneath his feet. He pawed at it, rolling a little pebble with his toe. A butterfly landed on his back for a second, and he froze as if afraid to scare it away. The moment was so peaceful it felt eternal. Mara lowered her camera, closing her eyes for a breath. "It's perfect," she whispered to herself. "Completely perfect." But perfection in the wild never lasts long. That a sudden hush swept across the clearing. The birds went silent. Even the insects paused, their hum breaking into uneasy stillness. The wind that had been whispering through the grass stopped. Mara looked up, sensing the shift without knowing why. The mother rhino's ears turned sharply toward the water. Her muscles tensed. The baby froze mid-step from the shadows beneath. The lilies, a long ripple spread, slow, deliberate, like a breath drawn deep. The mother took one cautious step backward, her body forming a wall between her calf and the pool. Mara, not understanding yet, lifted her camera again, zooming in on the movement. She thought it might be a crocodile. She whispered into her recorder, "Possible croc movement near the east bank." But it wasn't a crocodile. It moved differently, too smooth, too silent. The ripple vanished. The water stilled. The baby rhino leaned from behind his mother's leg, his round eyes wide. He gave a soft grunt, not of fear, but curiosity. Mara watched him, smiling again. "You're brave, little one," she said under her breath. Too brave. Minutes passed. The jungle returned to its normal song. The danger seemed to melt back into the earth. The mother relaxed and began to graze once more. Mara returned to her notes, though she kept glancing toward the water, her instincts uneasy. Then, as the sun reached its highest point, the air grew heavy. The heat pressed down on everything. The smell of mud thickened. The air shimmered. The distant hum of thunder rolled across the plain. The vines along the trees seemed to move, swaying in the heat. And in one patch of shade near the far edge of the water, something large stirred, unseen. Mara wiped her brow and sighed, closing her notebook. "We'll call it a morning," she murmured. She stood, stretching, her boots sinking slightly into the damp earth. The baby rhino lifted his head, watching her with that same innocent curiosity. There was something about her gentle movements, the calm rhythm of her breath, that felt familiar to him, like the safety of his mother's side. He blinked, head tilting slightly. She smiled. "You again," she said softly. "You like watching me, don't you?" For a few seconds, they stayed like that, human and animal, caught in the same quiet moment. The world felt balanced, connected, whole. And then, from deep beneath the surface, the water rippled once more. Mara didn't notice. The baby rhino turned his head toward the sound, ears twitching. His mother grunted softly, uneasy again, her eyes sweeping the banks. The air thickened, the golden light dimmed as a cloud passed over the sun. Far below, a massive coil shifted through the mud, ancient muscles tightening, tasting vibration, hunger pulsing like memory. The jungle, as if sensing it too, grew still again. The baby rhino took a step closer to his mother, pressing his head against her leg. She brushed her muzzle over his back, a quiet reassurance. But her eyes stayed fixed on the darkening water, where a faint swirl lingered and disappeared. Above them, Mara closed her camera bag, still unaware of the slow, sinuous wake sliding just beneath her reflection. The jungle breathed once, then fell silent. And in that silence, between innocence and danger, the story waited to begin. The screen would fade to black here, the hum of insects replaced by the low hiss of something moving unseen in the water. The calm before the storm. The scream tore through the air before anyone understood what had happened. It was sharp, wet, and full of terror, the kind of sound that makes the whole jungle stop breathing. Mara's cry echoed across the clearing, bouncing off the trees, swallowed by the thick air. Birds exploded from the canopy in a flurry of white and brown wings. The calm, golden world of morning shattered in an instant. The water churned violently. From the once still pond, a thick, green coil shot upward, wrapping around Mara's legs and waist. The anaconda had struck. Its body glistened with mud and sunlight, muscles rolling under smooth scales as it twisted tighter, pulling her down. The sound of her breath turned to a choking gasp. Her notebook fell into the water, pages fluttering like broken wings before sinking out of sight. The baby rhino froze. He had never heard a sound like that. The human scream, the splash, the thunder of his mother's hooves as she lunged forward. The mother rhino bellowed, her voice deep and wild. She charged toward the pool, but the mud sucked at her legs like a living thing, holding her back. Her nostrils flared. Her eyes burned with fury. She heaved forward, but each step sank her deeper. Mara's arms thrashed at the surface, slapping the water. Her fingers clawed for something, anything. The reeds, the air, the light. Her camera strap tangled around her neck. She coughed, gasped, and screamed again, but the jungle swallowed the sound. The snake's body pulsed with slow, terrifying strength. Every squeeze pushed the air out of her lungs and replaced it with silence. The baby rhino trembled. His breath came in short, panicked bursts. His tiny ears flicked back and forth, trying to make sense of the chaos. The water splashing, the deep bellows of his mother, the sharp hissing of the snake. His heart pounded so loud it filled his whole chest. He wanted to run. Every part of his small body told him to flee, to hide behind the safety of his mother's side. But she was trapped, and Mara, the quiet human who had watched him every morning, was disappearing beneath the snake's coils, The baby let out a small cry, a sound almost too high for the human ear. It was fear, pure and sharp, but it carried something else too. A spark of courage. Lightning cracked far away in the distance, the first sign of a storm that had been building all morning. The wind shifted, hot and electric. Dust lifted from the ground, swirling around the rhinos and the struggling woman. Mara's face broke the surface again. Her eyes were wide and wild, her mouth open in silent terror. She reached toward the shore, toward the little rhino standing frozen in the mud. Her lips formed a single word, maybe help, maybe run. But before the sound could leave her mouth, the snake tightened its hold again, dragging her lower. The mother rhino roared, her horns slashing through the mud as she fought to reach them. The ground shuddered under her power, but she couldn't get closer. The pool was too deep, the mud too soft. Then, something inside the baby rhino broke, or perhaps something awakened. He squealed again, louder this time, a sound that cut through the storm winds. He took one step forward, then another. Mud clung to his legs, sucking him down, but he didn't stop. His small frame shook, every muscle trembling. Yet he charged straight toward the sound of struggle. The world slowed. Mara's hand reached above the water one last time, her fingers brushing the surface. The snake's body twisted, massive coils glistening, wrapping tighter and tighter around her chest. Her skin was pale, her eyes losing focus. Then, a sudden blur of movement. The baby rhino hit the water like a thunderclap. His head collided with the snake's midsection. The impact sent ripples bursting outward. Mud flew into the air. The anaconda reared its head in surprise, its thick body instinctively loosening its grip. Mara gasped, a ragged, broken breath, as she fell sideways into the shallows. The baby rhino backed up and charged again, this time lower, horns scraping the snake's scales. He grunted, eyes wide with fear but burning with something fierce. The snake hissed, its long body thrashing through the water, trying to find its attacker. But the mud slowed it. Each twist sent up clouds of silt that blinded it further. Mara crawled, coughing, dragging herself through the reeds. Her vision blurred, her chest screaming with pain. Every breath felt like fire. She reached the shore and collapsed, half in the mud, half in the grass. Her hand pressed into the earth as if to remind herself it was real. The mother rhino saw her baby still in the water and bellowed louder than before. Her massive head lowered, her muscles straining. She pulled herself free from the thick mud and charged forward, splashing into the edge of the pool. The snake turned toward her now, sensing a larger threat, but it was too late. The storm broke overhead with a crash, rain pouring down like a curtain. The baby rhino stumbled backward, exhausted. The anaconda coiled again, its head rising above the surface like a shadow against the rain. It lunged, but this time, the mother was there. Her horn met the snake mid-strike, throwing it sideways with brutal force. The creature slithered backward, disappearing into the dark water it came from, leaving behind nothing but churning mud and the heavy breath of the living. Thunder rolled again, deep and echoing. The rain came harder now, washing away blood, dirt, and fear. The mother rhino turned to her calf, pressing her muzzle against his side. He shivered under her touch, but leaned into it, trembling less. Her breath rumbled through him, a sound that meant safety, pride, love. Mara lay still on the shore, her eyes barely open. She could see them, the mother and her baby, standing close, rain streaming down their gray skin. For a long time, she didn't move. She just watched, trying to believe what she'd seen. The small rhino that once chased butterflies had stood between her and death. The storm eased. The wind softened. The air smelled of wet grass and earth, the scent of life continuing after chaos. Mara finally sat up, clutching her ribs, breathing in shallow gasps. She met the baby rhino's gaze. For a heartbeat, the world around them disappeared. No storm, no predator, no fear. Just a moment of shared survival. The baby blinked, his ears flicking forward. Then he turned back toward his mother, pressing his small head against her leg. Mara smiled weakly. "You brave little thing," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the rain. The mother rhino gave one last grunt, low and deep, before leading her calf away from the water. Each step they took left wide, gentle prints in the soaked ground. The The storm light shimmered across their backs. Behind them, the pool lay still again, quiet, but not peaceful. The ripples spread wider, then faded into nothing. The jungle returned to its song, but something had changed. The baby rhino had crossed the invisible line between innocence and instinct, the moment when fear became courage, and somewhere, beneath the surface, the water stirred once more. The storm had come alive. Rain fell in hard, slanting lines, hissing as it hit the surface of the flooded pool. The sky rumbled like a great, living creature. Lightning flashed across the clouds, turning the world into silver for a heartbeat. And in that heartbeat, everything moved. The baby rhino charged again. His small body, slick with rain and mud, slammed into the thick coils of the anaconda. Once, twice. Each impact sent ripples across the water and tremors through his trembling frame. His breaths came in sharp grunts. His eyes were wide with fear and fury. He didn't understand why he was doing it, only that he had to. The creature that had taken the soft-voiced human, the one who had never harmed him, could not be allowed to win. The anaconda's massive body twisted in pain, scales scraping across the mud. It turned toward the calf, tongue flicking, mouth opening in a slow, deliberate hiss. The rain glistened on its dark skin like shards of glass. The rhino stumbled backward, his legs shaking, but he didn't flee. His horn, tiny yet stubborn, pointed forward again. For one terrifying moment, the world seemed to stop, just the sound of the rain, the thunder, and the beating of two hearts, one wild, one unbreakable. Then the snake lunged, but the baby was faster than instinct should have allowed. He sidestepped, ramming again, catching the serpent's midsection. Mud flew. The water exploded outward. The anaconda recoiled, its powerful muscles writhing as it lost control. Its coils loosened, just for a second, but that second was enough that Mara's head broke the surface. She gasped, a sound like the first breath of life, dragging air into lungs that had forgotten how to work. Her hands clutched at reeds and mud, slipping, scraping, clawing her way toward the shore. Her throat burned. Her chest ached with every inhale. The world spun around her, half light, half sound. Behind her, the anaconda thrashed violently, trying to regain its hold. But the baby rhino planted his feet in the soaked earth and let out a roar, not the deep call of his kind, but a high, desperate cry that split the storm in two. He lowered his head once more and charged with everything left in him. The collision echoed like thunder. The serpent's tail whipped out, catching the calf across his flank. He squealed, stumbling sideways, legs folding beneath him. The snake turned, its jaws opening wide, ready to strike again. But a new sound tore through the chaos, the mother's cry. The adult rhino burst through the wall of reeds like a force of nature. Her massive body, glistening in the rain, moved with unstoppable momentum. She charged without hesitation, her horn cutting the air. The impact was devastating. The anaconda's body flung backward, its coils unraveling as it slid into the deeper water. The mother stood over her calf, sides heaving, breath fogging in the cool rain. She lowered her head and nudged him gently, checking his flank. He blinked, dazed but alive. His small body pressed weakly against hers, seeking comfort in the warmth of her skin. The snake lay still for a moment, half submerged, its once powerful body curling and uncurling slowly. Then, like a shadow dissolving, it slid beneath the surface and vanished into the depths. Silence followed. Only the sound of rain, soft now, almost kind, filled the air. Mara lay on the shore, shivering, her clothes torn and soaked through. Mud streaked her arms, her face pale under the gray light. She turned her head toward the rhinos. The mother stood tall, her ears twitching, her eyes alert but calm. Beside her, the baby leaned close, his small frame trembling from exhaustion and shock. The woman's gaze softened. Her lips trembled as she whispered through the rain, "You saved me." Her voice cracked. The baby rhino looked toward her, his wide, dark eyes reflecting both confusion and recognition. He didn't understand the words, but he felt the emotion in them, the same way he'd felt his mother's warmth when danger passed, the same way he'd understood her comfort without sound. For a long moment, no one moved. The world felt suspended between two breaths. Then the mother rhino lowered her head again and brushed her muzzle over her calf's back, pushing him gently toward the open plains. The danger was gone, but the rhythm of life never paused for long. The storm was already easing. The clouds began to thin, and shafts of pale light broke through, spilling over the drenched savanna. Mara pushed herself upright, still shaking, her breaths uneven. She winced as she stood, one hand pressed to her ribs. Each movement hurt, but she didn't care. Her eyes stayed on the pair of rhinos moving slowly away from the water's edge. The baby stopped once and turned his head back toward her. The rain ran down his face, tracing paths through the mud on his skin. Mara took a step forward, her voice quiet, broken but full of awe. "Go," she whispered. "Go with her. You're safe now." He blinked once, a small gesture, almost like understanding, and then turned to follow his mother. As they walked, the light grew softer, the colors of the savanna deepening into gold and gray. The herd, which had scattered during the chaos, began to reappear through the mist. The rhinos moved together, their heavy steps slow and steady, forming a circle around the mother and her calf. Life, unbroken, carried on. Mara watched them until they faded into the distance, her chest rising and falling with quiet disbelief. The fear, the struggle, the noise of moments ago, it all felt like a dream slipping away. In its place came a deep, aching calm. She looked back at the water. It had gone still again, the surface smooth except for the soft rings of raindrops. Somewhere beneath, the Anaconda had disappeared. Returning to its secret world, the wind shifted. The smell of wet earth and crushed grass filled the air. Mara knelt down, touching the mud where the struggle had taken place. Her hand left a small print beside the tracks of the baby rhino. For a while, she just sat there, breathing, listening. Around her, the jungle began to sing again. Frogs croaked. Crickets chirped. A lone bird called from a branch overhead. Life was resuming, piece by piece. She closed her eyes and whispered, "Thank you." The rain slowed to a gentle drizzle. The last drops clung to the reeds and fell softly, one by one, into the still pool. Ripples spread outward, blending together until the water looked whole again. The camera would pull back now, a wide, sweeping shot of the drenched savanna under a soft gray sky. The rhinos, distant but unmistakable, moved like silhouettes across the fading light. Mara stood small against the vastness, a witness to the mercy that nature had shown her, in the great silence after the storm. The world exhaled, not in triumph, but in peace, because in the wild, survival is not always about strength. Sometimes it's about a single, impossible act of courage, one that reminds even the wildest heart that compassion still has a place here. The final image. The surface of the pool, smooth and dark. A few drops fall, creating ripples that slowly fade, as if nature herself is closing the page on this moment. The jungle breathes again, quiet, endless, alive.